Okay, welcome back to Community Challenge. We've got Rotten as the yellow Egyptians player on the left-hand side, up against FFNEZ as the purple Romans player. It's an interesting match because it's very melee-centric to start with. You know, anytime you've got two of, Egyptians, Celts, Romans, or Norse, because none of them have early going bowmen, you typically see very melee-centric compositions, generally mostly counter-infantry. Otherwise, like Egyptians, Norse, and Roman, yeah, can throw in a bit of cavalry. Celts can't. Egyptians, obviously, the camels counter all the other cavalry, so they're the ones probably in least need of needing to add spearmen. While Romans, Norse, probably the ones with the better spearmen, just considering their massive health pools. But in Age 3, it really opens up, particularly in this matchup, just because Egyptian probably want to get a lot of chariots just to deal with Roman melee. Well, the Roman player, Ekkers really only sort of trade evenly with camels. They don't actually beat them, whereas every other civ, once they get access to those later counter cavalry, they typically are tankier than the camels. So it's a rough match for Roman, I think, the longer the game goes on. Early on, it probably favors Roman a little because, legionaries are just tankier than axemen, and throwing axemen. And they've got that pierce armor as well, which makes them good under town centers. So pushing in this matchup is a little bit easier for the Roman player, I think. So both these guys are just going to go standard 2 town center. Might be helpful to try and secure a corner of this lake. Like if you put your town center down here or over here, and likewise over here, just gives you good access to the water because it means it's easy to defend your dock from the land. And it just means you're fairly centralized with your expanding off this central pillar. This side plateau into the center of the map. And you can sort of branch both ways, whereas if you come down one side, it's hard to then try and get over the other side with all your economy. Lebo a little bit lucky, he's got 2 high ground hunts. FF, oh, he's also got a second up here as well. So for now, just settling into it. No early aggression of any sort. FF, this is a nice TC, I really like this. Access to gold, it's a quick food. You see those guys under the building. And makes it easy to defend a dock. Lebo, getting similar gains in terms of what he's defending on the land, but if you had to come here, you'd be able to defend the water a bit easier. It's still not too difficult to keep this alive because it's so close to your town center. You're sort of caught between the two then. FF can afford a barracks. He's going to get a Castellum on the wood line, which is an interesting pick. I would have thought he'd probably try and hunker down over here first, because you can always just use houses to sort of wall in across here, or even just put a wall down around that gold mine. People just evaporating that wolf. Going for that second hunt now. First will be nearly gone. FF, same deal. They've both gone hunting dogs early though, because they both were pretty confident the other wouldn't spear rush. It is actually a good map for spear rush, considering this rush distance. Like if you put your barracks right here, you both got fairly front side hunts. You can do a lot of damage on this map. It's not as good as as Oasis for spear rush, but it is comparable to like equal footing or something. FF. Double Castellum production, so, effectively double barracks. Rotten so far. Looks like he's got a barracks and a stables, which FF will have scouted. Both of them still with their scouts alive at this point. So spear and legionary production here for FF. Wally goes for the water as well. Barracks not quite yet finished for Rotten. FF is unaware of the barracks, but I think he can safely assume that Rotten's going to get some sort of infantry. Because even if he goes 1 or 2 stables, just to get a lot of camels, you just need to mass spears. And then he needs to get barracks to deal with them. And you've already got barracks to deal with the axemen. FF going to be going for water. He's already banking a bit of wood here. So he really could throw down a lot in terms of production here. Go for another Castellum, get a third one, and then add a Praetorium of his own. FF just harassing off that first hunt. There's not a lot left here, but I'm just having to shift to that top side. Out the lower side of the map's just sort of out of the question for the moment. FF having to be careful that he's not stretching out his units too much. Probably wants to take this out and then reposition straight away. Because like right now, I mean, I don't know if Rotten had forgotten about that or... I'm trying to find some opportunity here, but there's not really anything to go for back here. Bit of a wasted effort. In fact, he probably should just pull back and try and shove here, because there's not a huge amount defending that hunt. Whereas getting caught in Rotten's base is not going to be ideal for FF here. Yeah, he gets a camel there, but I mean he lost a couple of legionaries anyway. And that TC is also going to help even up that trade. Whereas I think FF did have the opportunity to make a push on the land here. So he's going for a quick age 3. All this pressure he's put on has relieved him to do that. Rotten, for now, is only an age 2. It's up to 3 barracks in the stable, so he is actually just massing up, and he could look at shoving here. Because he's really crept ahead. 40 to 37 vills. I think the fishing will offset that a little bit, but yeah, Rotten's got a couple more villages. And FF does have that Praetorium, but he's still only on to 2 Castellum. I would have thought he'd want to have a third one by now. Because even if he goes quick age 3, if he gets Eckers, like he can use them against the camels. And they're actually pretty good against camels until the camels have their champion, where they get, I think they get health and a little bit of health. Mostly stuff to help them with as a range counter, but the health is also important. FF doesn't want to be too split up here. Rotten's got a pretty impressive force here at the moment. Those camels will be a handy front line. And then there's twice the number of axemen than there is legionaries, so the infantry fight is really going to go Rotten's way there. FF pulling back. He could probably look at getting a forum actually and getting some Clinicus just to heal his army up. Roman units, quite high health pools, so you don't want them fighting with any less than they've got. Greedy here from FF, trying to go for the boars. Rotten, he's sticking around too long with the camels actually. He's going to lose a couple of those for relatively little. FF's just going to go for that top hunt. FF shouldn't really be struggling for food though. He's got uncontested fishing at this point. All he really needs is to get another 2 fishing boats, and you know, that's half his food income he's going to require at this point in time. Let's focus on more production, because Rotten's adding a lot more production here, getting more, another stables there. If he's able to go to age 3 soon, which he hasn't got on the way, but he's got the army size that he can just afford to spend on age 3 here. If he does so, he can throw down a 3rd town centre and start making some chariots. FF only on the 2 TCs for the moment. He's got Legionary Champion, which is really going to help. A lot of health and damage from that upgrade. But he just doesn't have the numbers that Rotten's got at the moment. I'm just going to have to try and garrison here. trying to fight on the TC. This is good from FF. He's focusing down the priestesses, so we get them relatively quickly. It's actually going to be as good of a fight as it could be for FF, considering he was fighting at such a unit count disadvantage, but I think now it's just a little bit too much. The Axeman, even fighting against Legionary Champion, they've pretty much had almost double the numbers. Rotten's right about the berries, actually, didn't realise that, but bearing in mind, I think Rotten's got slightly better hunts. Yeah, FF doesn't have a lot of berries. I mean, a lot of hunts. Rotten's got like no berries. FF needs to try and get a critical mass here, because he's got a bit of time. If Rotten's going to focus down houses or the town centre, he does have a bit of time to try and remass, but he needs a lot more gold. He needs all of these guys on gold right now. He's got plenty of food in the bank. Still trying to... He's got triple legionary production, but it's not going to be enough at this point. He does need to have Decurions coming out as well. Rotten's hitting age 3 now. Easy for him to take this down. He's got the numbers because FF 54 villages, 68 to Rotten. Rotten's definitely got bigger army on top of that. Trying to throw up now a second town centre. Fishing Eco is still uninterrupted, but I don't think he pushed hard enough into that, because he really could have used that to be a big advantage there. Maybe getting that H3 too quickly, not getting that third town centre, I think. FF spending on H3, but then not having enough to defend. And not potentially playing it as greedy as he could have. Sort of gotten caught midway here, and now Rotten's just got all the map control. TC on the way up, but running out of buildings to keep it protected. Axeman now having champion upgrade, and it's going to be able to do a lot of damage. FF really needs some sort of range damage and some sort of splash damage. Scorpios would be perfect here, but he's just not able to afford transitioning to him at this point. He's just trying to get that third TC. Rotten victorious. Sorry guys, I had to go for a lunch break earlier, so we'll have a couple more games here. We'll see who's up next. I think Tim's is around and he was going to play Andres if Andres was on.